Hey, what's up? It's Nick Pagliochini, and I am out and about once again and checking out some really cool things for you to learn about in Southern California. But this is one of those opportunities where you'll actually get to go outside of Southern California, very likely, or you'll be able to take the opportunity to take this incredible rig and head to somewhere, Joshua Tree, Ojai, Buellton, so many different places. The only reason I talk about those three, there are three places that I went to as a kid. But this is Tom Wigginton. He is the Director of Operations for El Monte RVs. And thank you so much for taking time out of your day to hang out and talk a little bit about yourself and about El Monte RVs.
Nick, I'm stoked to be here, man.
Dude, it's going to be fun. So, Tom, take me back to you as a kid. Talk to me about you just growing up in, are you born and raised in Southern California?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so where's home? Where were you born?
I was born in Glendale, California.
Beautiful. So San Fernando Valley.
Yes.
To start. And do you have a nickname as a kid?
Güero,
Güero.
because I grew up in a predominantly Mexican neighborhood.
Got it.
As a kid, so I was like the token white guy in the neighborhood.
I love it. Okay. And did you...
Even though I'm not completely white.
No, I understand
my
that.
mother's Mexican.
I was going to say, no,
white.
and having talked beforehand, I'm aware of that, but I was saying, how was that growing up for you? Like you said, you know, we're in a world where, as you kind of referenced, you might have been the lightest skinned, you know, the least melanated of the crew.
The least.
But still, you know, what was that like growing up for you in Glendale? Like initially when you were a kid?
I didn't grow up.
Okay, so you were born there, but then where'd you move to?
To East LA, to Boyle Heights.
Oh, okay. So then you really, now I understand Güero all the way.
Yeah.
Okay, that totally makes sense. What was it like growing up in Boyle Heights?
It was great. I mean, you know, when you're a kid, it's just all adventure. And there was plenty of adventure back then, you know,
Sure.
a lot going on, a lot of movement, a lot of social movements. Obviously, I'm much older than you. A lot of social
I wouldn't
movements.
say you're that much older than me, but yes.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, you've got a couple of kids that are, you know,
Your age.
They're a little younger than me.
Yeah,
yes, but yeah. No, but so growing up in the East LA and the Boyle Heights area, specifically, what was that like for you? Because, I mean, we come from a generation or generations that went out and played until the streetlights came on.
Absolutely.
Conceptually. We didn't have tablets. We didn't have those things, and we really engaged our imaginations. Tell me what it was like as Tom, as a kid. Like, what were some of your favorite things you like to do?
Riding bikes. We used to
Okay.
ride bikes, and we'd ride bikes all over LA. You know, we'd ride down to like Alvera Street or downtown or to Santa Monica and just spend time, like you said, in the streets. So the sun went down, and plenty of times way beyond the sun going down.
Because, yeah, that was going to say, that was so much fun. And then it's like the Paleta Man would be rolling through like the town. There's so much specifically that, and I know that there's lots of communities around the country that are like that, and probably internationally as well. I mean, but for us, it was such a different place because that was also a generation where we weren't as worried, and we were able to ride to Alvera Street. You were able to hop on your bike. Mom and dad weren't too worried about you. We're in a different world now.
No, they were not helicopter parents.
Correct. I was going to say there was no such thing as that, but it was such a different existence because of the freedom and the really being able to get in the outdoors. You know, did you do organized sports at all? Or?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. What was your, what was your ball sport of choice?
I was a football player.
Football player. Okay.
And I ran track.
I love it. All right. Nice.
I went to the mighty Garfield High School.
The mighty. Okay.
I might as well plug that.
No, do please do. What was it like for you with education? How did you do with school? Starting as a young age, like grade school, and then junior high into high school.
I'll have give you the classic example. I was the typical solid underachieving C student to the point where I was invited to be in the first academic decathlon for LA County.
Really?
When they were selecting in the school district, like who's going to be our representatives, out of all the students, they said, you know what? He is a strong C student.
But now here's the funny part, specifically that I say with that. You also know how to talk. Were you always charismatic and extroverted when you were younger? Was that something that you...
Yeah. You had to be. I mean, who wasn't, you know?
It is, but like, think how many kids are introverts. Like, how many people were wallflowers and how many people were, you know, down that path. People like you and I, you know, we have to be told to shut up.
Oh, yeah.
As opposed to
still going on.
Correct. And that's it. There's such a different world and such a different existence. And with you being in organized sports, being in football, being able to get out, ride the bike, I mean, you were busy. And what were your friends groups like? What did you like to do?
You know, I think like most people back then, and maybe even now, you had different circles of friends.
Sure.
So, you know, I had my circle of friends that played sports. I had one that liked music and art, and then I
Okay.
had another group that liked to get in trouble, and
Okay.
a group
I know how that is.
that just loved the clubs. Because back then, I think I'm very fortunate that back then there was clubbing was way happening.
Yes.
We had disco just starting, and
Right.
that whole idea, that whole genre of music, and it was just mad fun because I look at my kids and how they're growing up, and it's like the music's okay, but clubbing isn't as big a thing as it was for me when I was a kid,
Right.
going out and dressing up and shining your car and doing all that
Right.
stuff.
Because I was going to say, from you going that way and then moving into the 80s and even the early 90s, it was such a different world of existence. And, before social media
Very much.
and before going, it was,
Thank God.
yeah, I know. And I am like you. If social media existed, even when in the 80s and 90s, when I was a kid doing the same things, I would be in so much trouble.
Me too.
More trouble than I am or have gotten into. Talk to me about what it looked like as you were growing up and moving into adulthood. What was that like for you? Did you choose to go to higher education? Did you go into the workforce? What was
Yeah.
that all looking like for you?
Yeah, I've always been very pragmatic about things. So, I took obviously college prep courses and the whole 9 yards. And as I was getting ready to go to college, my uncle at the time was worked for the post office and was a route examiner. And back then, that was a good gig for our neighborhood. If you were a
Okay.
mailman, it was a fun, wide open, walk the streets, have a good
I was
time,
gonna
know
say, you were out and
everybody,
about,
job,
yeah.
right? So he asked me what I was going to do, and I said, I guess go to college. But I really had no set thing. I never felt like, oh, I want to be an attorney or I want to be a doctor from day one. Didn't
Okay.
really know. Kind of wanted to figure it out myself. Although many people were telling me what I should do and what I should pursue, I was still always just feeling it out. So when I went to college, I took accounting courses because everybody would tell me, oh, if you have an accounting background, a business background, you can get a job anywhere and stuff. So I did that, and I worked for the post office. My uncle, encouraged me to take the exam. I passed the exam, and it was the worst job I've ever had in my life. I was keying mail on a night shift, graveyard
Wow.
shift, a
Okay.
letter a second, and it was just miserable. Worst job I've ever had, but paid very well. But I just hated it. So I left the post office, went to school full time, and started working for LA County Road Department.
Okay.
Worked my way up. It's Public Works now, but at the time it
Sure.
was the Road Department. Worked my way up into a position in business and finance, and did that, and then realized that wasn't for me. That sitting down and looking at ledgers and balancing out things was just amazingly boring to me. And so I opened a business with a friend, and we opened the dry cleaners, and that was a lot of fun. We were young. I think we were like 22, 23 with the dry cleaners, and we were breaking all the rules when it came to it.
Of course.
But it
Okay.
was great fun. And then from there, because of my accounting background and stuff, it was relatively easy for me to get a job in different arenas. And I ended up going to a casino called the Regency Card Club and Casino, which was on Eastern, I think, something like that. It's been a long time. And it was just opening. And I started there as purchasing manager,
Okay.
and then worked my way up, took over food and beverage and did everything, and did kind of like you, just chased it.
Yeah,
I knew
no.
it was good and I liked it. And I thought, oh, one day I'm going to run this casino. And there's a whole bunch of drama behind the casino and how it got involved with the feds and stuff. Not my involvement, but the ownership of it.
Sure.
And when they closed the casino down, they basically took away the gambling license. And so we were just a restaurant with horrible food costs.
Got it.
So that, the writing was on the wall. We weren't going to last too long.
Okay.
So they closed it down. I had saved money. I lived at the beach in Belmont Shores. I had moved to Belmont Shores.
So now you're in Long Beach. Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
loved it. Loved big time. It was a great place to be on the peninsula.
Especially then. And
Yeah.
yes, no, yeah.
And so,
I'm very well aware.
yeah. And so, I had extra money, had no
Sure.
responsibility. And people say, "What are you going to do?" And I told them, "I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to chill." I've been working very hard
Right.
at the casino, so it was time. And the former human resources manager at the casino, she called and said, "Hey, I'm working with this company. I think you'd like them." And I'm like, "Tell me about them." And she says, "Oh, they rent and sell motorhomes." I'm like, "What? Where are they?" And she goes, "In El Monte." And I'm like, "Well, tell me about them." She goes, they have no benefits, they have no this. And I'm like, why are you calling me? And she goes, because I'm here to develop all of that. You should come and meet these people. So I went down, had my interview with El Monte RV. They were, back then we were owned by the Short family, Ken and Sharon Short, and they were amazing people. The family were amazing. It was a clean and wholesome business. Mind you, I'm coming from the casino, gambling, and
which is a very creative, business practice.
Yeah,
yes.
And it's a different environment. It's not Vegas.
No,
it's Southern California gambling. So the whole notion of being involved in vacation and families, and back then El Monte was heavy international. Most of their business, about 75 to 80% of the business, was coming from Germany. And the place, as I had mentioned to you once before, looked like something out of the Old West.
Right.
They had an old train station as a pickup office, and it was like going to Knott's Berry Farm there. And they did a lot of functions. So they had a lot of things going on to invite the Germans to America, and it was just
wild. Now, was that now? And I'm going to jump a little bit ahead, and then we're going to come back, and we're really going to dive deeply into El Monte RV. But was it Winnebagos? Was it Airstreams? Was it, what was that initial beginning? What were you looking at that was attracting that international clientele?
Well, oddly enough, they started off, El Monte RV started off as El Monte Rents, and it was a small to medium construction equipment rental place.
Really? Okay.
Like cement mixers and stuff like that, wheelbarrows, and they bought a single RV.
Okay.
And it took off like mad. So the following year, they doubled their inventory and they had 2 RVs. And then they kept going. And when I joined the company, like almost 33 years ago, we had 750 RVs. And they had moved from the original facility that was on Garvey near Valley down to Valley, and had a facility there that purpose built. And it was just amazing. So they started with 1 RV, and to tell you the truth, I don't know what it was, but it more than likely it probably was a Winnebago.
Right, which makes sense. I mean, it's easy when it's, and we'll talk about the different styles of RVing that are available. Winnebago, predominantly, when people think about it, that's the all-in-one inclusive vehicle, as opposed to a fifth wheel where you're hooking it up to a truck and having to tow it, and we'll talk about all that in a bit. Going back to your time in Belmont Shore and when you moved to Long Beach, I'm guessing this is around the time when you may have found love. And
absolutely.
So talk to me about
Many
what
times.
It was like. Yeah, well, I was going to say, I'm sure there was lust involved as well. But talk to me about the family angle. Talk to me about you and how that all played out. Because obviously you have an entrepreneurial spirit, period. I think that's why you have been successful from then through now, because even when you came on with El Monte RV, it sounds very much like you took ownership in it as if it were your company.
Absolutely.
So, and I think that
I still feel that way.
And that's it. And I think that's a huge component that a lot of people, maybe in this day and age, don't necessarily gravitate to, because again, there's, as we've talked about off air, there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears involved with it. There's a lot of sleepless nights. There's a lot of things that are not the easiest, when you really are that owner. Going back to when you had the not laundromat, you had the dry cleaner. Back to then, I mean, you literally, while you were having the best time and you were breaking rules, as you said, you still had the numbers and the finances, and you had the background of the numbers to be able to do that. Because if you didn't have that, that thing would have crashed and burned like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it went on for some time.
And that's what I'm saying. So going back to you developing your young family, or, meeting your wife, talk to me about all that, because it's got to be an interesting story.
Yeah, it's always been sort of, I was raised by my grandmother.
Okay.
And so it's always, and my cousins lived next door, and it was always like sort of the extended family vibe.
Sure.
It has always been about friends and family and having fun and trying to support one another. And I felt a real strong sense of community in Belmont Shores. I mean, there were a lot of people in our same situation. Either they were single or they had just met their soon-to-be wife, out into the future. I mean, in fact, it's kind of funny. We all the group of people that live together on 62nd and Ocean down there, we all we're pretty much in the same stage in our lives. We all moved there roughly the same time. We all got serious girlfriends after X amount of time.
Sure.
We all kind of got married within the same year. We all had kids around the same time. We all moved out of Belmont Shores to get bigger homes, to raise a family around the same time. So it was a really nice, I'm going to say, I think I was there for 7 years on the shores, learning about how to be part of a community, how to support one another and how to be accepting of different ideas, different backgrounds and stuff. And for me, it was comedy because for the longest time, I was the weirdo in the ghetto, right? Yep. And then when I moved to Belmont Shores, people would say, "Hey, Tom, we found a brand new Mexican restaurant down the street. They just opened." I was like, "Why are you telling me?" "Well, because you're a Mexican, right?" And I'm like, "Oh, thank you, finally."
Yeah, I was going to say, you went from no melanation to completely melanated.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. But they were sweet. I mean, everybody was really, really great. And we still obviously stay in contact with a lot of folks, watching where their kids went to college, like same with ours and stuff. And that whole sense of community and support and everything and adventure, because I was back in the day really into windsurfing. So we would travel all over. So El Monte worked perfect for me because I would take an RV we had no kids back then. We were all just couples, weren't even married. We'd jump into a Class A like this and we'd go up the coast and we'd windsurf all up and down the coast, windsurf in San Francisco under the bridge and just have buku fun. It was just an amazing time. And then, just like anything, got to kind of chill out on the fun,
right?
Kind of settle down and then, get married, have children, start that whole phase of life, which has been really amazing. And again, being able to have that have my family and myself grow with a company like this was perfect because this is family. This is family, friends, adventure, growth, experience. It's all just worked perfect for me. I feel very fortunate to have led the life I've led. It's just amazing. Knock on wood.
Yes, I was like
Formica.
I was like, well, no, I was like, we'll do the hard heads on that one. So you met and tell me, just because I find it very fun and anecdotal, where's your wife from?
Scotland.
Which is wild to me.
And she is madly amazing.
And that's wonderful. And so the Owedo from the ghetto with the Scottish wife, which is quite wild. And you met her in Long Beach.
Yep, on Pine Street at Le Opera.
Oh, see. Oh, okay, bougie. Yeah. Look at you. Okay, I love it. That's great. So you were 110% a Long Beach kid.
Oh, yeah. I love Long Beach. Long Beach is a great city.
It's a great city, and it's very nice because it's right on the gateway between Orange County. So you've got the blend of the two.
Yeah.
And South LA County. It's fun. Now you have kids.
I have kids. I have 3 kids.
And what was it like raising kids in Long Beach?
You know what? It was great. My kids did well in school. All credit to my wife. She was a really focused mom. I'm very fortunate that we were able to have her, for the most part, stay home and help in the community, help at school, and help with the kids. I mean, obviously, like many families, we had to make a choice.
Right.
New cars every year and big vacations, or my wife stay home and take care of the kids.
Understood.
And help in the community, help in school and stuff. And so we were very fortunate like that. But the kids, they had a great experience. They went to Cumberly Elementary, they went to Milliken, and that prepared them for college. My oldest daughter went to Laverne, my son went to SLO, San Luis Obispo, and my youngest daughter went to USC. And then the 2 youngest, they went back and they got their postgraduate degrees at Long Beach because I wasn't going to pay for apartments anymore.
Totally get it.
So if you're going to go to school, come home.
Totally.
So they went back and they went to Long Beach State and did well there, and now they're out doing very well. And so it was really good. Long Beach is always a good place to raise a family, good place to go to school, but just like anything, it's what you put into it.
Sure.
If you expect to put it on autopilot and have everybody do something for you, then you're not going to get the same results as if you put in the blood, sweat, and tears.
Correct. With your kids, because I know obviously and going back to your wife, this is something that I subscribe to strongly, having also been lucky. My mother was a dental hygienist up until my sister came, and then she was able to work. But parenting is a full-time job.
Oh my God. And a half.
Exactly. And so being able to have that opportunity and have the flexibility with El Monte and what you were doing professionally, but then also with your wife, being able to be that balance of the two of you and having her there, but putting in that, you put in effort with your kids. You put in a lot of dedication with them. And then to continue with them into higher education, now we're really talking not just a mental and emotional, but a financial investment in helping them out.
You had to bring that up. You had to remind me.
I know. and I'm hoping that most of it's been paid off to this point. Ish.
Ish.
But what does it look like for you now? So you've got most of the kids out, or the kids are out, right?
They are out. My
Okay.
oldest daughter, she's out. She's been married for 5 years, 6 years now.
Okay.
2 fantastic granddaughters, Ari and Mila, both under 5. She's got her work cut out for her.
No kidding.
And my son Alec, he just moved out with his girlfriend Jenna. Great girl, great family. They're in Long Beach.
Good deal.
My son's an educator. He's a high school biology teacher.
Oh, very nice. Yeah. Long Beach Unified or no?
Yeah. He was at Renaissance.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. No, Long Beach Unified School District is right across from the studios.
Oh,
the home
really?
office is right by. Yeah.
Crazy story on that. My son's principal at Renaissance was his principal in high school, his principal in middle school, and his principal in kindergarten. So we have a picture of my son getting his diploma out of kindergarten from Mr. Navia. And then we have middle school, and then we have high school getting the diploma. And Navia is probably about my height. My son's taller than me. So it started like looking down at kindergarten and then
as
looking up at high school. Yeah.
See, that's great.
He hired him, and I have a picture now of him shaking my son's hand of his first day of work at Renaissance. What a story, huh?
That's a great story. And I think that really shows going back to when you were talking about in Belmont, it talks about community.
It is.
So it really is that focal point that a lot of times we forget because it just happens. Like it just naturally happens and we don't even think about it. And then you've got a third. What's your youngest doing these days?
I mean, my third one is Claire. She's the powerhouse. Claire's driven because she kind of grew up in the shadow of the other kids. And my son was very good in sports, and he was a big fish in a small pond at Milliken.
Got it.
In fact, there's a funny story that I remember the time that I was watching him and I had that feeling like, oh my God, I'm jealous of my son. He was a much better athlete than I was in school. I mean, he set a lot of records at Milliken in swimming. He was in a ska band that was popular. And I was like, oh my God, he's in a band and he's a good athlete. But that's what you want. You want your kids to be
more. Yeah. You want your kid to take what you gave them and be more. Yeah, and I think that's a huge thing. Now that you are a grandfather, now that you've got the kids out, what does life look like for you and your wife? And what is it like being a grandfather?
Well, when the kids first went to university, it was tough for me. I think it was tough for my wife a little bit too, because they're not there anymore, and that's such a big part of your life for so many years. Turning the lights off behind them, giving them advice, taking them to practice, and now they're gone at school. And it's like, oh my God, the lights are off. I turned them off yesterday and they're still off, there's no mess. So there was a little bit of transition there for me and my wife. And then and I think this happens to a lot of folks, is that we started to discover each other again, started spending more time with each other. And that was really awesome, for us to finally be able to focus on our relationship and not have, the kids coming first. Now it was us spending time. And it was really nice. We started going out to eat more, getting a little bit more weight. And just having fun and enjoying things. And so it's kind of changed. And I was contemplating, because I'm going to be 65 in July. So I've been thinking, maybe time to retire and this and that. But I'll tell you, this company, Almani, because I don't know, we haven't covered this yet.
Yeah,
but we got purchased, and it kind of changed the back end of the house, the business side of the house, who we are and what we do. And it's so exciting and so progressive and such a new direction that I kind of don't want to leave. So I'm sticking around till they hit me over the head with the shovel, and enjoying it. But it's a different vibe, and it's really good because now we have much more time for us as a couple and for me as myself. I'm really into track cycling,
Sure.
And I'm competing, and my wife's in her yoga and stuff. And so it's a different, and it's probably fairly typical, but it's a different phase for us, and we're really enjoying it.
See, I think that's great. And I know something that you have talked about throughout our conversation is the outdoors have always been important. Being connected with the outdoors, being a part, obviously I'm anticipating your wife isn't just doing yoga indoors. She's probably taking an opportunity in the backyard or wherever, the park or however it is. What is it like for you to be able to work with a company, with a product that you've been able to utilize, going back to when it was one RV and then two RVs, and the original with, a family-owned operation, to the new world that it is now with an incredible fleet of, rental or purchase. But What is it like for you in that whole time period? Being able to. I think the thing for me with RVs is you take your home with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And while there are certain unusual costs that are involved that when you go to a hotel or you do traveling that way, you don't necessarily think about. And then there's also a time commitment, but there's so much flexibility and so much versatility in being able to hit the road and go places. So what has that been like for you in your adventures back when you were, just the couples that were going out to the desert or going up to the mountains or whatever? Talk to me a little bit about your fun adventures that you've had being an RV person.
Yeah, that's actually a really good question because it's different at different times.
Sure, of course.
But you're right. At the root of it, it is the same. It is the flexibility. It is the convenience. It is, believe it or not, the economy of it. It is more economical in the grand scheme of things.
Of course.
To be able to have 3 couples here with the kitchen, transportation, and everything versus, stacking all the other expenses, the hotel, how many rooms you need for 6 people or, 3 couples or whatever the case may be, and going into a restaurant, and then the downside of the time too, waiting to be seated in a restaurant, and do they have what you want?
Sure.
You have all that here and you control all of that. So that doesn't change. That's always the same, but the application of it does change because when I first started, pre-kids and couples, younger, we were taking RVs down to Baja, California. I was into windsurfing back then. We'd go down to Baja. We'd go up the coast to the Sacramento Delta to windsurf. We'd take it to the desert to go hiking. We would do all these things, and we could take people with us, and we could socialize and have a good time the whole way there and the whole way back. And that was just magic. And I remember one trip, good couples down from Belmont Shores, rented a large one, and we went up to do wine tasting in Napa.
That's incredible. Okay.
Oh, it was amazing. So we did Napa one day, and then the next day we windsurfed in San Francisco, and then we went somewhere else and did something else and stopped and ate at restaurants we wanted to eat. And it was just absolutely amazing. And then when the kids came along, it was all about exposing them, or not exposing them, but introducing them to the outdoors.
Sure.
Their first camping trip, whether it was a lake or the mountains or Yosemite or Yellowstone or Huntington Beach.
Yes.
Local. We did a lot of great things in RVs, and it was all family. It was all family, oriented. Again, the common denominator stayed the same. The utilitarianness of this RV.
No, of course.
Stayed the same, and it allowed us a platform to have that. And I remember when my kids were really young, we were driving back from Utah, from Zion or something, and I'm sitting in that seat, just like that, driving along the road, and I look in the rearview mirror and I see my wife and my son, who was probably maybe 6 at the time, and my daughter, who was 4. We were working on counting. And I'm like, oh, what is he doing? And I'm listening, and they're playing blackjack.
Okay.
All right. And I was like, oh, that's so heartwarming seeing my family together. And then I hear my 4-year-old say, hit me. And I'm like, oh, man, wait a minute. Maybe that's not a good thing. She's teaching her gambling that young. But it was just so many experiences like that. Memories,
but you have a memory.
Oh, yeah. And they do, too.
Sure, of course.
They talk about it. Like your trip with your grandparents.
Exactly. And we're going to get into part 2 because I want to talk more about the different classes of RVs and how the difference is. But yes, we're totally going to talk about that because when I was 11, I had an entire month trip up the coast from San Diego to Canada. But coming up is going to be very soon, May 24th, which is a Friday. That is National Road Trip Day. And it is always the Friday before Memorial Day. It started back in 2019. And I know that that's a great opportunity to consider either a rental or a purchase with El Monte RVs, specifically because this, as we've talked about, it is that opportunity that grows with you, because you can start out with the glamping, you and your wife, or, when it starts out young, and you can progress into much bigger things. So let's we'll put a pause in it now for part one. Thank you again. This is Tom Wigginton, who is the Director of Operations with El Monte RVs. If you want to learn more about El Monte RVs, about Tom and the operations and how you can become either a renter or an owner, be sure to check out the show notes at thisweekendwithnick.com, as well as you can check out the link in bio at Nick Pagliochini or This Weekend with Nick. And how can we find out about El Monte RVs? Where are the URL, a website?
ElMonteRV.com.
Okay. And are you guys on social media?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
We're on all the platforms, Twitter, Facebook, everything.
Everything. Yeah. X, Twitter, you name it. So you can find El Monte RV very easily, and we will give you more detail.
Or you can drive down to our location here in Santa Fe Springs or one of our other locations.
Which is even better.
California.
And you want to hang out in a place like this. Yeah, no, it's very much a hands-on experience. But needless to say, as we're coming up on Memorial Day and as we are coming up on a National Road Trip Day, Tom and I, we look forward to seeing you out and about this weekend.